Yeah.
Small town Colorado, nestled in the mountains, everyone getting ready for Christmas,
Yeah.
the holidays, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the Long family, back in December of 2017,
Yeah.
well, it was anything but a happy holiday season.
No, not at all.
It's a really tough case, and we're going to deep dive into this unsolved murder of the 17-year-old Maggie Long.
It really is. This case really gets to you because it's such a peaceful setting and then something so brutal happens.
Yeah.
It's just that contrast is just jarring.
It really is.
Bailey, Colorado. I mean, come on, that's like Hallmark movie central,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And, it's the kind of place where people, they don't even lock their doors.
Yeah.
And everybody knows each other. So when something like this happens, it's not just a crime.
Mm.
It's like the whole town loses its innocence.
You're right. And thinking about, the beginning of this whole thing, Maggie's sister, Connie, she shows up at the high school Christmas concert, excited to see her sister sing.
Yeah.
And Maggie's not there. And then driving home, she sees smoke
Oh, wow.
coming from their house.
Terrible.
And like fire trucks and everything.
It's like every parent's worst nightmare.
It is.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Connie starts, trying to figure out what's going on, and she talks to a fireman, and the fireman mentions something about a burglary, maybe some missing weapons.
Yeah.
But he's really vague about the details, and it's not until she sees Maggie's car in the driveway
Oh.
that she realizes something is really, really wrong.
Yeah, Maggie's car is there, but Maggie is not.
Exactly.
That's when it starts to get really scary.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, yeah.
This is, like you said, a fog slowly lifting, right?
Right.
And underneath is just pure terror.
Yes, you have a fire, a potential burglary, a missing teenager.
Yeah.
Everyone's scared.
And the crime scene, you can't even imagine.
Oh, I know. I can't even.
It's like walking into a nightmare. Rooms just tossed, furniture flipped over. They found a safe that had been dragged across the floor. And this overwhelming smell of gasoline.
Oh, wow.
Just hanging in the air.
Ugh. And then
Yeah.
they find a body.
Yeah.
So badly burned they can't even tell who it is.
It's just horrific.
It is.
It's just horrific. So, of course, the investigation kicks into high gear.
Right.
But here's where things get really strange. The sheriff's department, for some reason that they never really explain,
Yeah.
they lie to the public.
Right.
They say there was no body found at the fire.
Why would they do that?
I know, it's just baffling,
Yeah.
especially in a small town like that,
Right.
where everybody knows everybody and people rely on each other for information and trust, is so important.
Yeah.
But this lie just created this wave of distrust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that.
It just added to the chaos and the fear that was already swirling around.
Right.
And, then there's this guy, Robert, who lived upstairs from the Longs.
Okay.
He called 911 after he heard some strange noises and he smelled smoke. But the most interesting thing is this.
What's that?
He describes this man that he saw outside the house.
Okay.
And this guy was wearing khaki shorts and a T-shirt.
Shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
In December.
In December in Colorado.
That's odd.
Yeah, who wears that in December in Colorado?
Right.
It just seems like such a small detail, but it really sticks out,
It does. Yeah, because like you said, it's cold in December.
Exactly. It makes you think, this guy, he must not be from around here.
Right. Right.
So that makes him even more suspicious.
Who does?
Right. So while all of this is going on, the investigators are trying to piece together Maggie's last few hours.
Yeah.
She left school to go get snacks for the Christmas concert,
Mm-hmm.
came home around 3:10 p.m., and then she vanished.
So what happened in those few hours?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And what makes it even more confusing is the stuff that was stolen from the house.
Okay, like what?
Okay, so they took a green gun safe, and inside the safe was a bunch of jade figurines and a pearl necklace.
Okay.
And then they also took an AK-47 rifle, a Beretta handgun, and a ton of ammunition.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a very specific list, which is really strange.
It is. It makes you wonder, was this just a random robbery?
Yeah.
Or was there something more going on?
Right, and so that leads to the question of motive. What was the motive here? Was
Right.
it just a robbery gone wrong?
Yeah.
Or was Maggie targeted for some reason?
Yeah, there were some rumors, right, about the Long family having money problems.
Yeah, there were rumors.
Yeah.
But the investigators, they seem to be more focused on the fact that the Longs were pretty well off, they had money, and they were known to keep cash at home.
Ah, so that would make them a target for a robbery.
Exactly.
But wouldn't most robbers try to avoid a situation where someone's home?
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
But, sometimes things don't go according to plan.
Right, especially with all those guns in the house.
Yeah, that's a good point. That definitely complicates things.
It does, yeah.
So then comes the autopsy, and they're finally able to confirm that the body is Maggie.
Oh, wow.
And the autopsy also revealed something even more horrific.
What's that?
They found soot in her trachea, which means
Well,
she was burned alive.
oh, my gosh.
It's just awful,
It's just terrible.
And then, on top of everything else,
Yeah.
the authorities issue a gag order.
A gag order.
Yeah, nobody's allowed to talk about the case publicly.
So they're trying to keep everything quiet.
Yeah, you would think that would help to calm things down, right?
Right.
But it actually had the opposite effect.
Really?
Yeah, people felt like they were being shut out, They were being kept in the dark about this horrible thing that had happened in their community.
I could see that.
Yeah, and so the gag order, instead of calming people down,
Yeah.
it just made them more distrustful.
Right. They don't know what's going on, so they start to speculate, imagine things.
Exactly. It just created this wall of silence, and it felt like something was being hidden.
Right.
And as the investigation dragged on with no real leads,
Yeah.
people started to lose hope. But then there was this case in Missouri.
Okay.
And this case, it offered a glimmer of hope.
Huh?
A very small glimmer, but still a glimmer nonetheless.
Okay.
This case in Missouri, it involved a woman who was set on fire during a home invasion.
Oh, wow.
And there were some pretty striking similarities to Maggie's case.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, one of the suspects in the Missouri case actually looked a lot like the composite sketch that was made based on Robert's description.
Oh, wow.
And the fact that both victims were set on fire, that's not exactly a common thing,
No, it's not.
It's such a cruel and personal way to kill someone. It just suggests this deep level of rage or this desire to just inflict as much pain as possible.
It's really disturbing.
It is.
Oh, did they ever figure out if there was any connection between the Missouri case and Maggie's case?
Well, they looked into it, but the DNA evidence ended up excluding the suspects from the Missouri case.
Oh, so it was a dead end.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a dead end.
So close.
Yeah, it was. But, it's a good reminder that these investigations, they can be really complicated, and they don't always go the way you expect them to,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with something as horrific as this.
Yeah.
And then, just when it seemed like the case had gone completely cold, the FBI makes this announcement in 2021.
Yeah.
They announced that Maggie's murder is now being investigated as a hate crime.
Oh, wow. So that changes things.
It does.
Why
Yeah.
would they make that announcement after all this time?
I don't know. They haven't really said.
Do they know who did it?
No, they still haven't caught the killer.
So why say it's a hate crime then?
I guess they must have found some new evidence or something.
I guess so, but it's just strange.
It is.
It's like, what evidence could they possibly have found after all this time?
It's hard to say, but it definitely throws a whole new wrench into the investigation.
It does, yeah.
Because now, instead of just looking for robbers,
Yeah.
now they're looking for someone who might have targeted Maggie because of her race, or her gender, or maybe even both.
It's just so awful to think about,
It is.
Like that someone could be targeted just for being who they are.
I know, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
It just makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world, you know?
It does, yeah.
And even Maggie's sisters, they've talked about how this new information has affected them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to understand why,
Yeah.
Why would someone do this to their sister?
Right.
And they keep saying that they just want answers. They just want to know what happened.
I bet.
And I think their words are so important because they remind us that this isn't just some abstract case,
Right.
This is about real people, real lives that have been shattered, a real family that is still grieving.
It is. And a whole town that's been traumatized.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even though the FBI is involved now, and they're investigating it as a hate crime,
Mm-hmm.
Maggie's case is still unsolved.
It is.
And there are still so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, like, who were these attackers?
Right.
Were they from Bailey or did they come from somewhere else?
And why did they target the Longs specifically?
Right. And what was with all that brutality?
That's what I don't understand. Like, why would they go to such extremes?
I don't know. It's just senseless.
Yeah. But Sergeant Kipple, she seems to think that the killers aren't from Bailey.
Really? Why did she think that?
Well, she says that nobody locally has come forward with any information.
That's a good point. You would think that if someone in Bailey was involved,
Yeah,
someone would have said something by now.
exactly. Small towns, everybody knows everybody's business.
Yeah, that's true. And Sergeant Kipple also mentioned that the man who Robert saw outside the house,
Yeah.
the one wearing the shorts and the t-shirt,
Mm.
well, she thinks that that's another indication that these guys weren't from around here.
Right, right, because who wears that in December in Colorado?
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense.
So what happens now?
Well, Sergeant Kipple, she's hopeful that advances in DNA technology might help to finally solve the case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have some partial DNA profiles from Maggie's fingernails,
Oh, wow.
so they're just waiting for a match.
So there's still a chance that they might catch whoever did this.
There is, it might take time, but there's still hope.
I hope they catch them.
Me too.
But it's not just about the DNA evidence, right?
Right.
They still need someone to come forward with information.
They do. Someone out there knows something.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw something that night, or maybe they heard something,
Mhm.
or maybe they even just suspect something, but they're afraid to say anything.
It's tough,
Mm.
because people are afraid,
I know.
especially in a small town like that.
Yeah, they're afraid of what might happen if they talk. But the thing is, staying silent just protects the guilty.
It does, and it doesn't help Maggie or her family.
No, it doesn't, and that's why it's so important for anyone with information to come forward. No matter how small or insignificant it might seem.
It might be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. It could be the thing that finally breaks the case wide open.
I hope so.
Me too.
I know it can be scary to come forward,
Right.
especially in a small town like that.
Yeah, people worry about what their neighbors might think or what might happen to them if they talk.
I get it.
But Maggie's family, they deserve justice.
They do.
And the community deserves some closure, some answers.
They do, and keeping quiet, holding on to information that just protects the people who did this.
Yeah,
And it lets them get away with it.
it does. And you know what really gets to me about this whole thing?
What's that?
Maggie, a few months before she was murdered, she actually wrote this really beautiful message about kindness and compassion. It was after a classmate of hers had passed away, and she was encouraging everyone to be kind, to spread good vibes, you know?
That's so sad.
It is. It's just heartbreaking to think about those words and what happened to her.
It's just so unfair.
It is. It makes you wonder how someone so full of life, someone who cared so much about other people, could be the victim of something so horrible.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It really makes you think about the kind of evil that's out there in the world.
It does, and it reminds us that even in the most peaceful places, bad things can happen.
Yeah, and years later, this case, it's still affecting people in Bailey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's still that fear and all those unanswered questions and the distrust that was created by the sheriff's department.
It's like a shadow hanging over the town.
It is, but
Right.
even though it's been so tough for everyone,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of good in that community.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They've really come together to support Maggie's family.
They've organized vigils, raised money for the investigation, and they're doing everything they can to keep Maggie's memory alive.
It's amazing how people can find strength in each other, even in the face of something so terrible.
It is, and it reminds us that even though bad things happen, there's still a lot of good in the world.
Yeah, it's important to remember that.
It is. We can't let fear control us. We have to keep fighting for justice and speaking out against hate.
And supporting each other.
Exactly. And that's what we need to do for Maggie and her family.
Yeah.
We need to keep her memory alive, and we need to keep fighting for justice.
So Maggie's case, it might be cold, but it's not over.
No, it's not.
Someone out there knows what happened, and they have the power to help bring this to an end.
That's right. And if you have any information, no matter how small it might seem,
Yeah.
please call the Maggie Long tip line. The number is 303-239-4243.
That's 303-239-4243.
Even if you think it's not important, it could be the missing piece that the investigators need.
It could be, so please, if you know something, say something.
Don't let fear keep you silent. Your voice could make all the difference.
It could, and, in a way, by coming forward, you'd be honoring Maggie's memory.
That's right.
Because she was all about kindness and compassion and doing the right thing.
Exactly. So let's do the right thing for Maggie.
And for her family and for the whole community of Bailey.
Yeah, let's bring them some peace.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Maggie Long's case, please subscribe to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
We explore all sorts of fascinating stories and complex issues.
We do, and we try to do it in a way that makes you think and feel and want to learn more.
So subscribe to The Deep Dive and join us on this journey of discovery.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everyone.